tell me, Sarah, you are so strong. Now, they say it with admiration, but sometimes even relief, as if my strength means they don't have to worry about me. I usually smile and thank them, because that's polite, right? What else am I supposed to say? I'm hanging by a thread here? That doesn't really work in casual conversations, right? I'm scanning this room today, and I wonder, how many of you have managed to survive quietly so no one would notice how much burden you carry every day on your shoulders? Today, I'm not going to share a story about suffering. I'm here to talk about what strength hides and why that matters. I'm not going to stand here and tell you what happened to me, but what surviving quietly taught me. By the time I was 24, I had lived several lifetimes. I grew up in a broken family, learning early that stability was fragile. Then I entered marriage young, believing it would give me some sense of belonging and safety. Instead, I learned what it means to be afraid in your own home. Then, I became a widow. At the age of 24, barely an adult myself, I was a widow and a single mother of a 9-month-old baby girl. Now, from the outside, it seems like a story of resilience, and in many ways, it is. But somehow, the story is quieter, a bit heavier. Because when life gives you no choice to fall apart, you don't become strong, you become functional. So here I was, just like any other mother, completely lost. There was no framework or handout for a 24-year widow and a single mother. And believe me, my daughter did not come with a framework or any kind of guidebook with steps that said, step 1, survive. Step 2, figure everything out by yourself. And step 3, no sleep. Definitely no sleep. So now what? You wake up, you take care of your child, and you do what needs to be done, not because you're brave, but because quitting is not an option. That's the part of the story we rarely tell when we praise strength. Strength in its rawest form is not empowering. It is exhausting. It's like holding your breath underwater for ages and then calling it resilience. Behind this strong face and the strength, live fear. Fear of failing your child, fear of being judged, fear of being seen as weak. Because weakness feels like a threat to your personality. It feels dangerous. So what do? You learn to carry everything alone. And people let you. People let you because it seems like you're handling it well. In fact, you're handling it way too well. And once you pretend you can do it all on your own, congratulations. You just got promoted to doesn't need help list. Ooh. Well, that's another, I do need help here. At some point I realized something uncomfortable. Being called strong was protecting everyone else from really having to engage with my pain without actually even asking me how I'm doing. And for a long time, I accepted that role because strength gave me identity. It made me feel worthy. It made me feel safe. It was like a shield between me and the entire world, but it also silenced me. Because I didn't talk about the loneliness that I felt when I was feeding my child alone. I didn't talk about the times when I almost wanted to give up. And I didn't talk about how grief doesn't arrive at once. It comes and hits you back down in waves. Why? Because strong women don't complain. Strong women cope, right? That's the story we are told. And for a long time, I thought it was just my story. Because of course, I was naive. Of course, I was so young. But psychologists describe something called functional resilience. It's when people tend to be coping really well while their pain remains invisible. Research shows that many men and women experience strength not as an empowerment, but as an obligation. Behind all of this, something else was happening. I wasn't healing. I was postponing, and postponing pain doesn't really make it disappear. Postponing pain doesn't really make it disappear. Let it sink in. I know, we all have heard, time is the biggest healer. Is it 100% true though? Because for me, healing only began when I allowed myself to be something other than strong. One day, my daughter was pretty young. She came home and she looked at me and said, "Mama, why are you always tired?" Innocent, a brutal truth, a reality check, perhaps. And I realized while I was pretending for this entire world that I'm very, very, very strong, my daughter was quietly observing exhaustion on her mother's face. So I realized I need to change something about this life, about this attitude towards my situation. In an amazing book called Option D, it's written by Sheryl Sandberg, she talks about learning to live after loss. Not by returning who you were before, but becoming someone new, someone after everything changes. So I realized I wasn't going to be back to this old version, the old Sarah. I was emerging as someone new, someone who has survived, someone who's learning to live, who's learning to laugh and dress up without feeling the guilt of being a widow. Isn't that our right? We only live once, right? You only live once. Is it YOLO? Right? So, I realized something needs to be changed. And just like that, just before I turned 30, something incredible happened. Something that 24-year-old version of me never thought was possible. She found love again. I found love again, and a new family. I allowed someone into the parts of my heart that I spent ages protecting. I wish I had a time capsule. I would go back to that 24-year-old girl, that girl who thought she wouldn't make it. I would look into her eyes and I would tell her, "You will be okay. You will be okay." And that little girl, that little baby girl that you're worried about right now, she's going to grow into an extraordinary, beautiful young woman who's going to be as tall as you one day. Yeah. I would tell her, "You'll be fine. You will stand in rooms full of women, trying to help them navigate storms that you thought once would have drowned you. You would help them. You will mentor them. You will be fine, Sarah, and you will find yourself again. Most importantly, you will find yourself again." The strength might have kept me alive, but vulnerability is what allowed me to live. And this is the part of the story we rarely talk about. We celebrate resilience, but we don't ask about the cost. We admire survival without actually making space for rest. We praise strength without offering support. So here's what I want to leave you all with today. The next time you see someone who's unbreakable, don't just say you're so strong. Try to dig deeper. Try to offer support. Try to find ways to help them, because trust me, we humans were not supposed to do it all alone. You know, it takes a village to raise a child. So why are we losing that element of togetherness? Why are we so adamant in proving to the world that we can do it all alone? Why? If you're that person today in the audience who always copes, always manages, has always survived, I want to invite you to say a few words with me. And I want you to say these words, but yes, don't just hear them. I want you to feel them in your heart. I want you all to take your right hand and put on your heart. I'm going to say the words first, and I would like you to repeat them after me. I don't owe the world my strength at the expense of my healing. Now, let's say it together. I don't owe the world my strength at the expense of my healing. Beneath the surface of every strong person is a story that deserved more gentleness. Thank you.